get into this lawsuit, okay? 47 pages. We're going to go through it now. I'll take breaks. I'll take pauses. I will take pauses to answer chats and stuff like that. So don't worry. I will get to it. I think this is the best view because I want to make sure the font is as big as possible. And some of it I will skim because it's procedural. And we got 47 pages. So don't you worry. We're going to keep moving here. So obviously the plaintiff is Logan Paul, and he's suing both Steven, aka Coffeezilla, and his company. So that's the proper way to sue somebody on the internet. If they've got a company, you're going to want to include their company as well. Logan Paul is a globally recognized entertainer, athlete, and entrepreneur, and brings a defamation action against defendant Steven Feinstein, aka Coffeezilla. So he bringing a defamation action against defendant Coffeezilla, a self-described investigative journalist and internet detective with no actual journalism training or a private investigator's license. Hold on one second. I want to highlight this real quick because this to me is really, really funny. You know, the fact of the matter here is, chat, is that you don't need journalism training or a private investigator's license to do these things, right? Like, so let me be very clear. Just like you don't need to have a private investigator's license in order to look into stuff and uncover stuff and expose stuff. Now, there are certain things that you should have a license for, right? Like, I don't know, being a lawyer, right? Like you should be an actual lawyer, right? Or a doctor or something like that. The claim is no actual private investigator's license. Yeah, and journalism is fucking useless. Any of you guys that have been with me to cover journalism knows that journalism is fucking dead. It is fucking dead. Journalism is gone and dead. And the people that are journalists today are writing opinion pieces. They're the Alyssa Mercantis of the world. So, I mean, to be honest, I trust him more because he doesn't have quote unquote actual journalism training. If you have actual journalism training, you're probably part of the fucking problem, right? You're probably part of the machine that's cranking out essentially fake news and just absolute partisan opinions or bullshit. Okay, so he's suing Coffeezilla to hold him accountable for maliciously and repeatedly publishing false statements accusing Paul of operating a scam in connection with a troubled blockchain project called CryptoZoo. Okay, so here's one thing I want to point out. Under the precedent of Times versus Sullivan, both Coffeezilla and Logan Paul are public figures. When you are a public figure, the standard to prove defamation is higher. It's maliciousness. It is very fucking hard to prove maliciousness. Very difficult. So not only does Logan Paul have to get past the anti-slap statute and prove that this is not trying to silence Coffeezilla and keep him from exposing frauds, etc. He's got to also prove that it was malicious, that he was doing it to get Logan Paul out of a malice towards Logan Paul. That's hard. That's really fucking hard, guys. That makes it, someone mentioned in the chat, almost a lull suit. This is almost a lull suit at this point. It really does, because that standard is so high and is so difficult to hit. So players would get these egg non-fungible tokens, so NFTs. So you already know it's kind of an issue when there's NFTs. But then would hatch into animal NFTs. Players would then be able to breed these animals to create unique, even rare hybrid animals, in which would earn players an in-game cryptocurrency called Zoo tokens based on their rarity. All this activity would be carried out in a virtual ecosystem where animals could continue to be bred, traded, and used for mini arcade games and sold to earn more Zoo tokens. So look, if this was like Pokemon, this would make a ton of money. But this is an untested online crypto concept pushed by people that, well, happen to be con men, right? So that's, kind of the problem here, at the core of all this. So to develop the project and navigate the intricacies of blockchain, Paul was unfamiliar. So Paul's admitting he didn't know what the fuck he was doing. That's actually not good for his case. That's not good for his case, because if he knew what he was doing and he went in and let's say he had more knowledge, that might actually be a good thing for his case versus saying, oh, I'm unfamiliar. Well, then you can say, well, you were scammed, right? And Coffeezilla, rightfully showed that you were scammed by people because you didn't know what the fuck you're doing. Because you, like many other influencers, are not an expert in the areas of the products you're shilling. Whether you're shilling some sort of nutritional drink or energy drink or whatever else, you're probably not an expert in that. You're probably just an expert in being an influencer or being famous at what you're famous for. Paul assembled a team of experts, as it turned out, individuals who falsely represented themselves as experts. There you go. And spent hundreds of thousands of dollars of his own money on graphics, animation, and project-related expenses. And that's on him. These are sunk costs, which he has to recover from those quote unquote experts and people, not from Coffeezilla, right? That's the rub there. Coffeezilla titled his series Investigating Logan Paul's Biggest Scam, which is the video I showed that's on his front page when you go to his channel. He proceeded to confidently tell viewers not only that the project was a scam, but it was a scam conceived of and perpetrated by Paul. The three-part series, well, even in the own facts here, this is the problem, guys. Even in the facts here, it says that Paul put his money into the project. So at least partially there was a conception here. And ultimately it ended up being a scam. So, this is not entirely untrue. Even with a beneficial eye towards Paul, even saying that he didn't know about Ibanez and Greenbaum, he still put his money into the project and said he was doing due diligence, said he was hiring experts that turned out to fail. So it's at worst, giving the most favor to Paul. It's partially true, partially untrue, which does not meet the standard for malice. So the three-part series was viewed tens of millions of times. Each of the videos remain among Coffeezilla's most popular of all time. That's true. The viewers and public at large were captivated by the narrative of unserious social media influencer who supposedly used his fame to dupe his fans into investing money into a fake crypto project while always intending to abscond with the money. Coffeezilla knew full well that Paul had never set out to scam anybody, but on the contrary, always intended to build a legitimate blockchain-based game for participants to enjoy with a like-minded community. In addition to knowing that Paul did not profit, so he's saying that Coffeezilla knew that Paul did not profit. I don't know whether Coffeezilla knew that or not. That's something he'd have to prove. Coffeezilla possessed scores of contemporaneous internal text messages between Paul and his co-founders, showing, for example, that Paul was adamant that the project be executed to perfection before being announced publicly, and that Paul was focused on the details of the gameplay experience, including over financial gain. That Paul was explicitly relying on Greenbaum and Ibanez for all aspects of the game's development. Well, this is a problem, right? So maybe calling out this being a problem was merited, that you relied on these guys and you didn't use your common sense, including the timing and logistics of creating and trading in the Zoo token liquidity pool. And Paul was beside himself with frustration about the betrayals that prevented his vision from being realized. Yet, because they did not fit his preferred self-serving narrative, Coffeezilla purposely concealed all these communications. So because he didn't show every single text message, save for select messages, he manipulated and intentionally presented it devoid of context. So this is where he's trying to get to malice. So he is trying to prove malice by saying that, okay, Coffeezilla had text messages and he didn't show them. Paul naively believed that his commitment to buyback would help him find common ground with Coffeezilla and then. And this sounds like it's personal. This sounds like, honestly, guys, to me, this sounds like Logan Paul just wanted Coffeezilla to like him. That he was out there searching for the validation for Coffeezilla. Logan, here's my advice to you and to all others on the internet looking for validation of others on the internet. You don't need their validation. You don't need their validation, right? This is where people get into trouble. They want internet senpai to notice them. It's kind of, it's kind of weird, right? Logan was tsundere after all. Yes, Logan was tsundere. He just wanted Coffeezilla to be his friend. I mean, I'm thinking this thing is getting killed on motion to dismiss just based on what we have so far. We'll see. But Paul misjudged Coffeezilla. The betrayal arc, guys. This is all about the betrayal arc. Even after Paul announced the buyback, Coffeezilla simply could not help himself from dipping back into the well that had proven so effective in earning him viewers, attention, and revenue, both from his YouTube earnings as well as an associated Patreon account that he's used to solicit donations from subscribers. So he's giving him shit for having a Patreon. In summer of 2023 and continuing in 2024, Coffeezilla began publishing additional YouTube videos, which he also teased and hyped on X, formerly Twitter. And he again repeatedly claimed the public the false allegation that CryptoZoo was a scam and a fraud conceived of and perpetrated by Paul. So because Coffeezilla kept putting these videos out and kept posting on X, that's what hurt his fifis. Through the ups and downs of his career, including CryptoZoo, Paul has learned to believe in the importance of taking accountability and responsibility for one's actions. Paul brings this defamation suit to hold Coffeezilla accountable for his actions and to hold him liable for the immense harm he has caused to his reputation through an intentional and reckless dissemination of defamatory falsehoods. So this is clearly defamation, clearly trying to prove malice. Now, real quick, Logan Paul, this is very interesting, is a citizen of Puerto Rico and resides in Dorado. Now, in case you guys don't know, this is always very interesting for me. Puerto Rico is a place where a lot of folks like Peter Schiff and a lot of folks that have a significant amount of money end up going, because if you're not going to leave the United States, right? So I am an expat, right? I have a lot of advantages in terms of taxes, in terms of reducing my amount of money I owe to Big Papa government, right? Which I like a lot. Puerto Rico is about the best thing you can get without moving out of the US. So especially if you're making your money in certain ways, it is effectively the best tax haven you're going to get and still be able to be within these United States. It's the US tax haven, right? So that's the best way to describe Puerto Rico. So off rip, to me, and I'm just like kind of giggling that Paul is doing this as a Puerto Rican citizen, right? Once again, it's like, look, you're allowed to do whatever you want to do. Tax minimization is legal. There's nothing wrong with that. But people are going to ask questions when you show up with like a British Virgin Islands citizenship, or you're residing in certain places. People are going to ask questions. That's all I'm saying. And sometimes those questions are fair questions, right? Sometimes they're fair questions, right? So he's living in Puerto Rico. Coffeezilla is in Texas. So that's the reason why this is a case brought in Texas, right? And I like this here. He says he is a investigative journalist and quote unquote internet detective, such passive aggressive beta quotations, who specializes in exposing scams and uncovering scams and fraudsters. Coffeezilla is a citizen and resident of state of Texas and resides in Bourne, Texas. And his company is a Texas corporation, which he owns, right? Obviously, the amount in controversy is over $75K, right? This is going to be a very large lawsuit. So this is a diversity suit brought under 28 USC 1332. So there's two types of federal lawsuits, and those are diversity and constitutional questions. This is not a constitutional question or a federal issue, a unique federal issue. This is a diversity case because there's different citizenship of the parties. So he's bringing this in federal court, probably hoping that federal court will be more advantageous than a Texas court. Let's see here. So let's continue. So obviously he got interested in NFTs and he wanted to build this game, CryptoZoo. And what did this come out of? I fucking called it right here, guys. He was inspired by his love of Pokemon, a Japanese media franchise that included video games, trading cards, animated series, and films. I actually didn't even, guys, I didn't read this part of the complaint. I just fucking predicted it. Like I'm telling you, I mean, it's fucking obvious that he was trying to be Pokemon, right? I haven't heard him talk about this, whatever, but it was fucking obvious, right? Very obvious that he was coming for Pokemon, right? The purpose of CryptoZoo was for use in CryptoZoo ecosystem where people would spend tokens in a virtual marketplace and a variety of in-game features and enhancements. So on its face, there's nothing illegal about that, right? The problem is these people were con artists, right? Both Ibanez and Greenbaum. Paul focused on creating rules for the game, assigning names and rarities to animals, and providing high-level input on in-game features, design, and functionality. To that end, he paid 10 artists and animators to create the artwork and animation. Signaling his devotion to the game, Paul incurred $220,000 in out-of-pocket expenses, most of which went to paying artists. Ibanez, who represented himself as independently wealthy through his successful data analytics, told Paul he would personally go out of pocket for development costs. So these people are falsely representing themselves. Unbeknownst to Paul, they're both con artists. Both men lied about their resumes, knowledge, experience, and intentions. They sabotaged the project from within and prevented him from reaching the vision. So they both rugged the token. They lied to him about the progress, right? And Paul eventually had to write the co-founders saying the problem is we are understaffed, under-equipped, under-experienced, and a bit off more than we can chew, and none of it was relayed to me. So he admitted that there was fuck-ups, right? Now he's saying it wasn't relayed to him, but that doesn't remove your responsibility. Far from profiting, Paul lost. So we know Paul lost money. He fucked up. Ibanez, Greenbaum, they're both scammers. We all know that, right? So I'm going to fast forward. We all know they're scammers. Okay, let's go to Coffeezilla. Coffeezilla builds a profitable personal brand as an expert on ferreting out supposed scams. Coffeezilla grew up in Texas and attended Texas A&M. Kind of based. My aunt teaches at Texas A&M, so kind of based. He majored in chemical engineering. Dude, that's actually pretty cool. One of my best friends majored in chemical engineering. He clearly is smart, right? If you're a chemical engineer, you're clearly smart. Actually, my ex-girlfriend was a chemical engineer as well. Like very, very smart. I get along very well with engineers, right? I think lawyers and engineers tend to think in a pretty rational way. So very, very smart person, so big ups on him for being intelligent, right? After college, he worked as a salesperson for a home builder and he joined YouTube. He posted a channel, Coffee Break, did not focus on any particular topic, and was more in the vein of video essays than an effort at investigative journalism. So that's how people's channels change, right? They change. On one video, for example, aimed at criticizing the use of corporate jargon in office spaces, while another from the same time frame asks, is exercising worth your time? Coffeezilla first adopted the Coffeezilla personality, creating his YouTube channel under that name in August of 2018. His early videos on the channel consist of interviews on various topics and video essays like how to live in an age of distraction. Well, once again, as many people have, we change our content as content creators, right? That's very, 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 very true. Beginning in 2019, though, he began to produce a series of videos on fake gurus, in which obviously he was getting more traction. He then began his current recognizable Coffeezilla style, featuring him talking to a microphone with what became his signature white dress shirt and suspenders, right? So that very much looks like the old gumshoe and reporter, right? Very classic look. He began to focus on many videos on cryptocurrencies, including Bitcoin, Tether, and Doge. He found himself credited for focus on cryptos and scams related to that, such as the Save the Kids token. So he got big off of crypto. Cool. And got big off of covering a lot of crypto. He then covered Logan Paul's new crypto coin as an embarrassment. So this is where they got into it, right? Which is the meme coin called Dink Doink. In this video, Coffeezilla falsely accused Paul of participating in what he characterized as a Ponzi scheme. So Coffeezilla's video was viewed 5 million times, right? And commenters accused Paul of committing financial fraud. This is a huge problem. And I've seen a lot of defamation cases try to do this, try to hold you responsible for your comments, but you are not your comments. And this also happened in the Sydney Watson case. Remember Sydney Watson? Guys, remember Sydney? Remember our old girl, Sydney? She tried to claim that The Blaze as a company was sexist because comments on the videos were sexist against her, or we're targeting her, right? Once again, that's not a thing, right? We should not be holding people responsible for comments on videos, right? Our girl Sid, right? Our girl Sid. Right. Yes. It's a bad thing that lawyers are trying to make a thing. Lawyers are trying to make people responsible for commenters calling you dishonest, scumbag, jail time, sociopath, fraud, scammer. But guess what? You're not responsible for that, guys. You're not. I'm sorry. Right. Paul's NFT buyback was an enormous success. Well, that's a subjective opinion, but okay, you're allowed to posit that. Right, so the buyback program received enough claims of about a third of the total NFTs purchased. The buyback was at a price of 0.1 ETH each. He personally committed 295.6 ETH to the effort. The funds were officially dispersed on March 25th. Given each exchange rate that day, he was ultimately able to disperse over 1 million of his own money to buy back egg NFTs from NFT holders who submitted a claim. It bears repeating that Paul never received any funds from the purchases of egg NFTs in the first place. So the funds he dispersed as part of the buyback were not a refund of money made from the sale, but rather from his own assets. But it's still from his scam. Paul was trying to right the wrongs of his scam, and to an extent, he did do that, at least for a third of the people, right? But it was still as a result of his scam. And it even says here, between his own investments in the game's art and development. So he's admitting he had a part in it. This is a fundamental flaw. Why buy back if you weren't involved? Why would you pay out if you weren't at fault? This is the question I had for Twitch, right? Remember talking about Twitch with Dr. Disrespect, saying, why did Twitch pay out to Dr. Disrespect at some point? You're not going to pay out unless you're at fault. You know? Nevertheless, Paul was heartened by the success of the buyback at the high level of participation in the amounts that were able to distribute. While bad actors made millions, right? Paul stepped up and did the right thing to give closure, to bring some closure, right? Not surprisingly, Coffeezilla never commented on the enormous success or the fact that Paul resoundingly delivered. Guys, this is complete bullshit, okay? Logan Paul is pushing the concept of compelled speech and saying that this is accountability, right? How is this accountability? Because he wants people to know that Paul did the right thing, right? How is this going to help the people that were scammed? Paul now turns his attention to Coffeezilla, who needs to be held accountable. He's literally relating Coffeezilla on the same scummy level as literal crypto grifters and con artists Ibanez and Greenbaum. If anything, he's kind of defaming Coffeezilla here. Like, this portrayal is actually more defamation of Coffeezilla, if anything. Of course, once again, it's stupid for public figures to sue each other, so it'd be stupid for Coffeezilla to turn around and sue Logan Paul. But, you know, if anything, this is Paul trying to shoot little jabs like a petty beta bitch at Coffeezilla. Paul was initially willing to turn the other cheek. Oh, aren't you so Christ-like, Paul? Turning the other cheek, right? I hate when people are sacrimonious like this. Oh, I've turned the other cheek, right? Oh, I just take the blows, right? Right? Get out of here. Get out of here. On his accusation to scam people. He wanted to believe that Coffeezilla was sincere in his desire to help people who lost money. But his actions, even after the buyback program, concluded that his sympathies are a ruse. You're just sad he's not licking your nutsack for the buyback. You did the buyback because you wanted him to kiss your ass. That's it. That's all. So what are his claims? Libel per se. So he's claiming that June 29th X post, that Logan Paul is really the type of dude to thank you when you expose his scam. This is true. He was part of a scam. Then block you when you remind him to pay up. What's libelous about that? What's libelous about that at all? It's not false. It's not defamatory. He was part of a scam. He was a business partner in a scam. No libel there. What's next? His June 30th video, Logan Paul's scam isn't over. Second claim. So as part of that, the title says that Logan Paul intentionally defrauded people via scam business. No, it does not. Here's the problem. They need to prove intent. Saying it's Logan Paul's scam does not imply intent. You do not, that title does not imply intent. It implies that he was part of a scam business, which is true. It doesn't say that he was maliciously scamming people. It's his scam. He owns a share in that scam. This is true. CryptoZoo was a scam. He owns it. Boom. This cause of action is dog shit. What do we got next? What's the next cause of action? The refund on January 2024, right? Calling Paul a massive con, calling what he did a massive con, and referring to Paul as a serial scammer. Well, because he was part of two separate scam coins, both CryptoZoo and Dink Doink, both of those are scams, so that is a serial scam. So what's the point there? And they're saying that to an average person, the accusation means that Paul intentionally did it and he knew maliciously with reckless disregard that this was untrue. Not going to win on that. So what does he want? He wants actual and compensatory damages in excess, meaning over $75K, as well as interest and attorney's fees as allowed by law. He wants punitive damages, which are extra damages, right, for the excess as allowed by law. And such other relief as the court deems necessary. He wants a trial by jury, right? And it's signed off by Shelley O'Brien, Andrew Phillips, Shannon Timmerman, Gene Neerman. Jesus, fuck, how many lawyers do you have? And Jason Mays. Florida attorneys here. So you got a lot of Florida attorneys here up in Fort Lauderdale. A DC attorney, and then you've got your Texas attorney who's going to help him pro hoc vice in there. That's your lawsuit. This lawsuit is dog shit, guys.